Be in the automobile industry in the United States if you're in your own niche and no competition. The minute the competition moves in, and the minivan market today is a good example of that. Now everybody and his brother's got a saleable minivan. Quite a few unsuccessful ones in the course of 15 years, 84, but they're all in there now. So it's having its effect on Chrysler and their sales. So.
Now, when you were at Nash, did you meet George Mason?
Yeah, George Mason, yes. Oh, yeah. Well, he was in the studio all the time. Ed Anderson to make sure he'd bring him in because George Mason gave Ed Anderson as much support as anybody. Probably, politically, Meade wanted to have, not Sid Meade, but Meade Moore wanted to have his say. He liked to get involved in a thing. I think I mentioned that before. And that maybe bothered Romney a little bit. Ted Ulrich was pretty much in Anderson's camp, but for the same reason, they wanted engineering to be successful. So, but Nash had a very good reputation, very fine automobile and quality automobile, and things go funny when all of a sudden as your volume drops down, it makes it rough, because it's tremendous expenditure.
What was your impression of George Mason when you saw him?
Well, very likable guy, and would speak to anybody. Enjoyed small cars, and was always looking at sketches, and very formidable. He understood so many times. Someone who's the president of an automobile company, goes home at night, and all they do is get on their lawn tractors and mow the lawn, and that's the end of it. They used to say that about the Chrysler guy, Cafero's boss.
Oh, yes. We're having a senior moment here.
Yeah, we're having a senior moment, is right. But anyway, because he'd go home, he'd get on his tractor and ride in, where someone else goes home and gets in his car, and I'm going to do this one, get a different shifter and put in here, and see. There is a difference, because you do ride by the seat of your pants every now and then. So.
I've heard stories that Ed Anderson used to work on his own Nash Healy.
Yes, yes.
And supposedly George Mason had a custom-built V8 Healy.
Yes. Yeah. And
he was a real car enthusiast.
And Anderson had a lot of special things going on, for his. He tells a great story. He lived out on 32 Mile Road in Romeo, and he comes in one morning. He says, "Oh, you're not going to believe this." And of course, the butler and I are sitting there. Yeah, what? He says, "I'm going home, heading out there, and he's taking us Nash Healy through this and through that." And all of a sudden, he says, "Look ahead, was it 32 cars on the road, 32 cows on the road, say the farmer's field, and they were crossing. I signaled to the left, and I swear to I missed this one." He tells this whole story about he missed all these cows on the road, on gravel. We just thought it was a great story, I'll never forget that, with this gray hair, and he wore that cap and driving gloves.
He was a member of the Sports Car Club of America.
Yes, very likable guy.
Oh,
he had a great lake, great wife, and great fish in the lake that he owned. That was really nice.
Yeah, I've seen pictures of his maps of his estate. It must have been a fairly large.
Very large.
There's a boathouse showing on the lake.
Yes. He sort of built his own cofferdam up at one end. You could ride around it. And it was very nice. He invited me out one time. We had lunch there. I fished, and after I caught 2 bass about this big, I decided, "Alan, put your rod away. That's all you're going to take." I could have caught 9 of them. There were some big fish in there, very, very nicely laid out.
But he was a likable guy, huh?
Yeah. Oh, my experience, there were more politically oriented people at Ford Motor Company than at Nash. No, I don't think there's any question about it.
Yeah.
Now maybe that's because of survival or what. You don't know. I mean, it was strictly bread and butter business. They were all here. And I think when you're working in a small studio from a designer standpoint, you realize, well, there's 5 of us. That's all. Well, it doesn't go over. There's only 5 that are going to go. You can look in the mirror. You're in. So
that's a good point, that the amount of work that those 5 guys did.
Yeah.
When you look at most of the smaller companies were running one car, and you guys had the Ambassador and Statesman, the Rambler on 2 wheelbases, the Metropolitan, the Nash Healy, just hit after hit, a beautiful car after beautiful car. It's just amazing the volume of work that came out of it.
Yeah, and then I forgot Mason died at an inappropriate time, as I recall.
Yeah. 1954.
So,
He must have seen the 55 model, so.
Yeah, he must have,
Yeah.
yeah. But I think the next 8 years would have been a little bit different had he still been around, and an emphasis on small cars or smaller. So,
Oh, you think so?
well,
You
that's what
know, I'd
they
always
say.
assumed that he would have continued the big car program too.
Yeah, well, like I said, that's the business. You always sit there with one. Even right now in the automobile companies, what are they all trying to do? Well, with their left hand, we'll do a small one. 42 miles to gallon and a half electric, and that's the game. The game's that's constant.
Now, you mentioned a couple times a 126-inch wheelbase big car that you were working on.
Yeah.
Okay. I've got to stretch my memory, but it seems to me like the Nash-based Hudsons were built on a 121-inch wheelbase, so this would have been a bigger car?
Yeah, my recollection says, and I could be wrong, it says it was roughly a 122 and 124, or 124 and 126, so the 2 or 3 inches difference, and they were huge. They were long.
Wow. Yeah.
As a matter of fact, I can show them that blue sketch. And just hold it up and it gives you that idea with those large quarters if you want me to do that.
We'll do that in just a little bit. Now, what year would have that been that you were working on those cars? Because if you were working on the Hudson, there was your counterpart must have been working on a Nash.
On the Nash, yes. We both worked at the same time.
Yeah.
And both had them finished at the same time, showed them at the same time. And that's when the decision had to come down and say, okay, are we going to put the money in this?
Yeah.
And we had just got them finished, and they were all brought back, and then maybe that took about 2 weeks, as I recall. The order was given to just continue working on them, start again, set up the Rambler doors and the body in your thing, and start 2 new ones, and they're all going to be shorter. You know, boy, that was
they're going to. So the big car program was stopped, and then
we went right
tried to make a big car out of the Rambler.
A big car out of the Rambler.
Now, do you remember what year that was? Okay.
Can't help you.
No.
So, but it's in that order, and you know, you stand around in the studio waiting for that the word to come down.
Yeah. Exciting days, huh?
Yeah. Oh yeah, I enjoyed it. As I've said to you earlier, I says I don't think I worked a day in my life. I enjoyed designing cars. It's great fun. It's different every day.
What did you drive personally during those years at Nash?
Well,
did you get company cars, or did you get a deal to buy a car?
No, well, you see, I had gone to Ford first, so I bought a 52 Ford. Not good, you know, even Ed Anderson said,
we'll let it
they don't do it. Yeah, but he knew I was so young, I just moved over there. What am I going to do, buy another new car? I mean, I just couldn't do it, you know. You know, and this guy, I told him, I said, well, as soon as I can, I'm going to get a Rambler. I was be glad to have a Rambler, you know, and especially because the new one was coming out, they were sitting there, you know. But God, man, I hear just unfortunate. It just worked out the way. But most anyone that they hired came over with another car. That was ironic, you know, that you bring that up because. I forgot what Vince Gardner had, was a big Cadillac or something like that. And Ed didn't like that, you know, but he was hired, and I can't rattle off everyone else, or Richie and Samples. I forgot what Samples had, but and of course Bill Reddick always had a Rambler, you know, a Nash, naturally. You know, so.
He had a Metropolitan too, I know, that he said he bought from the engineering department. Something they had fitted overdrive to.
Yeah.
And I know that in later years, Dick Teague bought an engineering car, another Metropolitan too. So that's why I asked, because we wonder sometimes where some of these cars ended up.
Please, Mr. Rabbit, don't drive so fast on this curvy road. Oh, please. My tummy.
Nonsense, child. It's just your imagination.
No, it's not just your imagination, Alice. It's not just uncomfortable riding in a car that swings and sways. It's unsafe. But with the exclusive deep coil spring suspension in the new 55 Hudson Hornet or Wasp, you get greater stability on turns and 3 times the cushioning comfort. That softer, better ride in a Hudson is possible only because of another great exclusive American Motors feature. It's the double-strength, single-unit body of welded steel. Twice as rigid, twice as strong, twice as safe. There are many things you'll like about any Hudson, Hornet, Wasp, or Rambler. Airliner reclining seats, adjustable to 5 different restful positions, twin travel beds for overnight stops, and you can get all-season air conditioning at a fraction of the cost you'd usually pay. You get all these exclusive American Motors features in the smart, modern Rambler, too, the car that's tailor-made for today's crowded driving conditions. Wonderful for salesmen and commuters with its low cost and mileage up to 30 miles to the gallon. And the ladies love the Rambler for its beautiful styling, for shopping and taking the youngsters to school. Yes, American Motors has gone all out in 55 with the Hornet, Wasp, and Rambler, the most beautiful performers of them all, at your Hudson dealers now.
This is the last of the big cars that you worked on with American Motors, huh?
Now, this is what we were talking about when we were doing the big 122 and 124 or 126-inch wheelbase Hudson. And a sketch like this, which was one that was done at the time, that gives you an idea of what the size of the vehicle we were considering building. And this one here just showing a two-door hardtop, but long front fenders and trailing rear quarters to no end. So they were big cars.
That is a beautiful design.
Well, and then you can see the disappointment when all of a sudden the word came back, scrap them, we're not doing it. And they were all done too.
Yeah. Now this would have been a Hudson.
This would be a Hudson,
but
yes.
The Nash would have looked very similar, at least in
Yes,
size.
yeah, well, from about here to here would be the same, and then you'd have a different extension on the front and the back, yeah. Two of the doors would be identical. So that was one big car by comparison.
Now, I know on the back of that picture, there's a picture of a futuristic Nash that I thought was really beautiful. I was hoping you could flip that over and show us that.
He just loves it, just because it's got an old nameplate on it.
Yeah.
You know, that's an old sketch when you see that Nash styling down at the bottom, because that's the image that was on most all of the large, colorful sketches that were shown in the studio.
Well, I love futuristic pictures too, and that's obviously very futuristic. That looks like it's coming from 100 years
If we didn't have to
now.
build small cars, this is where American Motors would be today, right now. You'd be driving around in that, I hope.
Well, that's a beautiful picture.
Okay?
Now here's another interesting design. Let me see if we can zoom in on this. This is a car that obviously has a lot of the looks of the 55 Nash, but it's in a convertible. What can you, do you remember when you were working on this drawing?
This is a line drawing of one that would then be rendered. You know, this is the line drawing that we usually produce first, and then did the rendering over it, such as we showed you just a minute ago. But this is with the headlights inboard of the fender that way, and you can see the covering of the front wheel opening, which is unique to Nash at that time. And then with the step down here at the front door, that would be a nice feature, especially with the full fender. Notice the sort of the full fender size that would be coordinated with the large Nash. And so then the trailing in there, which is sketch-wise, can be, heaven only knows what it would be in the end. But that was typical of the approach they liked you to take, to see if you could come up with a good Rambler image. But that'd be a nice looking convertible.
Oh, beautiful car.
So.
Okay, Alan, why don't you tell us, this is a very interesting looking design here.
Yes, it is. Well, this is a futuristic car that was done down there in the Hudson studio, and this is the original sketch. And of course, this is the one that had been drawn up 3/8 scale. And we have some drawings back there to show the scaling behind it. And at a later date, this was modeled in plaster. And you may have seen the article in Life magazine, and where it shows the result of that finished model. But it's kind of a glamorous shot. A tremendous fin arrangement back here would look real nice. And of course, this is typical of the Hudson shots that you know, we were showing you, and Patrick here has seen in some of the other sketches. There was that open area there. That fits in nicely. And then the relationship with the large scallop in a different color in the back, and then up in the front fender here, really, really neat. And there's the Hudson. There's another V styling, which I've already explained to Patrick, which was that was the word. Everything had to have V styling on it. But neat little guy.
I love the fins on it. Very dramatic.
Yeah,
the taillights are really exciting, and the three-tone paint. If you look at the picture, you don't notice for a moment that it's three different colors mixed in there, just beautifully blended.
Yeah. Well, it's a thought that three-tone paint's liable to come back one of these days. That people, you know, they start to maybe get into two tones and then into three tones, and the colors.
This year opened the doors to an entirely new era in automobile design. The all-new, all-American Rambler is so excitingly different, so perfect for today's needs, that Rambler popularity is increasing at a faster rate than that of any other car. The reasons become clear the moment you get behind the wheel. You turn more easily and in the least room because Rambler has the shortest turning radius of any car. You outmaneuver and outpark other cars because Rambler is the most compact car of all. A Rambler is the perfect family car. It costs less to buy, less to drive, brings you top trade-in value as listed in this official used car book. Drive a Rambler now at your Hudson dealers, at your Nash dealers. Discover why American Motors means more for Americans.